Hi, my name is Anna Maria and I'm here at RGS as a photographer because I was part of Heart of Arabia journey, and we actually have an exhibition in the hall going on right now. So I'm a Romanian origin. I'm based in Switzerland, and I work in the parallel with photography and getting involved in conservation projects. I work in the social field with the Swiss government.
My name is Paul Harris. I've been a freelance photographer for probably about 30 years. It actually all started here in many respects. I did a project photographing British explorers with the help of Nigel and Shane Windsor. We made a collection of the portraits, and since then I've really become a full-time documentary photographer. So I work mostly with people, sort of human interest stories. That's something that really appeals to me, and how people affect landscape and culture around the world. When I studied photography for 2 years, it was a brilliant course down in Newport in South Wales. It was a 2-year, very intensive course looking at picture stories. Basically, that's how you tell stories, with picture stories. And in the final thesis, we had to come up with 4 projects. Entirely whatever choice of subject matter was yours. And my interest, because I'd been a climber for a number of years, I wanted to learn about portraiture. And I thought, well, I can't travel very much, so I want to photograph the people who do it for a living. So people like Chris Bonington, Ranulph Fiennes, Wilfred Thesiger. So I did a whole series of quite sort of traditional portraits of these people. And through that led on to a number of assignments working with some of those people. So that was a real connection with the RGS from very early days.
So I actually came the first time at RGS for the Explore Weekend in 2018 because I presented a project on snow leopard and empowering women working aside with the rangers in Central Asia, in Tajikistan. And after we had another project that I was part, the Karakoram Anomaly project, and we were working on glaciers in northern part of Pakistan. So I had the connection, through Martin Hartley. He's a border explorer who recommended me through Nigel, and that's how I met Mark Evans. And that's how I get involved in the Heart of Arabia journey and the expedition.
Again, it's all about connections, and this is one of the buzzwords of the weekend. And it was actually through Martin Hartley, who's a brilliant, polar and Arctic cold region photographer. And I've known Martin for a number of years, and so it was Martin who introduced me to Anna Maria. But I'd say this is the first time we've met. We've corresponded or whatever, but with the fact that we were working on the same panel this weekend, it's great.
So we even had a discussion just before. I think for me it's most important is to follow your passion. Whatever you do. At the base I'm an economist, and I did studies in geopolitics, and I was all the time interested in kind of like working. I work in the banking industry, and I also work in the humanitarian field. And for me, photography for 15 years, it was kind of like an extent. When I was traveling to remote regions, I just wanted to tell the stories of those people. And I think to use your passion and what you are best at doing, the best thing is kind of like to use somehow the photography to communicate your passion, to communicate. It's such a great tool to do it. And sometimes photography, it's such a great tool to connect with the community when you go in the field. It's another language that can be used. What is important is just that people need to go out and they need to do it, and to accept that sometimes it's not easy, it's hard, sometimes you would fail in whatever you want to do, in whatever you want to communicate, but what it matters is actually to go and do it, and just use your passions to go out and share it with other people. You never know, and I think, like everyone told me also, your story is unique. Each story is unique. So your way, my way of seeing things, Paul's way of seeing things, it's unique and it's different, and it contributes to a greater perspective of the things. And I think that makes, and people, they might be afraid that photography, it's a place where, there is no space. But I think there is space, because each person will specialize in a certain way, doing this or communicating things. So I think there is space for everyone, to join it and to share it with anyone else.